Right, so in today's video we are going to look at exercise 9, and this is a kind of introductory parts to an assembly view. As we can see from this 2D specification we got here, we've got multiple parts. Down in the corner here, it's highlighting for us what's included in this clamp set. Okay, so we've got a strap clamp, we've got a stud, we've got an M12 T-nut and an M12 flange nut. So this is the clamp here, this is the stud. Then we have got the M12 T-nut and M12 flange nut there as well, and this is an assembly view of it. So that's just giving us kind of taster into what assembly drawings look like. And really, because this is such a kind of small and not overly complicated part, we have everything conveyed in the one sheet. If we had a much more complicated assembly, we would probably just have a sheet per each part. Okay, that would be all contained within a folder, that would start with an assembled view, then maybe an exploded view, which would mean all the pieces just separated out on one page, and then you would have the individual specifications for each part. So this clamp set would have its own one page just to show all the dimensions. This stud would have one page just to show all its dimensions, if it was more complicated. But because this is a fairly simple assembly, it's all just shown on the one. So it's a bit of an introductory into an assembly view, assembly drawings, and also this part is maybe just not as simple as some people would think. So we're going to have a go at it now. So I'm not going to bother doing the stud because it's pretty straightforward. We've just got really an extrusion with a dome on top of either end, or you could do that with a revolve. And we're not going to do the nuts over here because they're standard. We could get them maybe from the toolbox, definitely the flange nut anyway. So we're just going to look at this main part here, the main body or the main clamp. So when we start to do this, you know, you could start, people may just look at it and dive into it straight away, but really what you want to be starting with is this top profile here, because this has got the most information on the drawing sheet from that view. And really where the difficulty applies is if you look at just this top end here, you'll see it goes through a couple of different planes. This drafts in at an angle in here, as we can see, it drafts in at the 60-degree angle, and it also has a cut-off piece at the top, so it's drafting downwards. Although everything on the bottom stays level, we've got it coming in here to the center and drafting down. So there's a couple of different kind of planar movements that is going through. So if you went to do this from the side and try and extrude it across and then cut out maybe your pieces from the top here, you could come into trouble because you may not just have all the dimensions from this view, and it could be quite hard to get the dimensions from this, because you see we're being dimensioned off the center slot rather than really off one of our edges. So this is the way I would go ahead and do it. So we'd start with our part, we'd open up a sketch, and we would sketch on our top plane, because we're going to go open up that sketch, go back to the drawing sheet, we're going to go with this view here, the top view looking down. Start with a center rectangle, pull that out, and we're just going to try and map out the rough shape of what we have from the drawing sheet. So you'll see there's like a center rectangle, then we've a corner rectangle at the end. Just make sure that snaps down to the bottom there, and then what we have is kind of like an angled piece here that's going in. Now I'm going to put in a center line as well, because that will help us keep everything centered. And now this is kind of a rough outline of what the top end view of that looks like. Okay, so now we're going to try and start putting some dimensions on it. I suppose the thing to note is, you know, everything's straight here, and that this part is in the center of the whole piece, so that's going to be an important relationship we're going to have to put in. So the center line is going to help us get that. If you find the midpoint of this, you'll see it's off the center line. We want to make that coincident to our center line. So now when I dimension this part, which is to be 16, it will equally space 8 on either side of that center line. So that's important to us, because we don't want 16 to be top heavy way out at the top. It's 110 in width by 40, so we can put that in. So its total width to here is 110. Look at where that reference, that's not where we wanted to reference it. Okay, what that's going to do is going to shift down because everything's not centered off just yet, so we'll leave that one just to the end. We'll put in our 40 here. Okay, that's gone in nicely. We can also put in our angle piece here, that's to be 60. You'll see that's just skewing a wee bit, so you want to pull that in. Okay, and you also want to make sure that it's equally distributed on both sides there. Make that maybe our 110 now, and we can pull that in there just to clean it up. Now what else do we want to put on? We want to check, we've got a lot of relationships to this slot, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the slot along the center, so center straight slot, pull that in, and then we'll start to mention that. So we know this has got to be 6.25 from the two center points. We want it to be 40, and then we're going to measure from that center point to here and put that at 40, so that will work out all the rest of the dimensions for us, and you'll see we are fully defined. So now we want to extrude that out. Now you could trim the bits in here, but we don't want to lose any of our geometry, so I'm just going to make that a construction line, so that'll join these two parts together. And we've got a construction line now. We've actually got two construction lines, because you remember we've the edge of this box here, and then we also have the edge of this box here. So in order to make them two construction, if you right click on that double line, you'll see you get the option to select other, and you'll see I can select two lines there. So my first one has got the construction line put on it, and then if I just right click again and select the next line, you'll see I can add that for construction as well. So now them two are construction lines, and that won't interfere with our extrusion. So we can go ahead and extrude that out. You'll see it extrudes out nicely. We'll go downwards, and it's 25, it needs to go down. So that's what we're left with, and that's what I was trying to say. See that it's curving inwards this way, and then we've got to make it curve downwards. So we're going to cut across just to do our last little view, and we're cutting across from this view here to get that kind of cut that triangle out on both sides. Now you see we don't know the angle here. We can't assume it's 30, but we do know it lines directly up there. So you'll see if I snap to this edge that I already have in, see that edge profile, it will all be match up with this geometry, because the sketch beforehand was fully defined. So we're going to open up a sketch on this side. I'm going to sketch, and then all we've got to put in is we've got to put in our angle. Okay, on that side, and we're also going to need an angle. We need to snap it to that point going down on this side. Now we can measure. It says once this distance top to bottom to be 10. See how that gets fully defined, and this one here top to bottom to be 10. Now this one isn't fully defined because we haven't snapped that to anything. Here we snapped it to the edge, so it knows the distance across, but we do know it's going to make a 30-degree angle. So when we put that 30 degrees angle in, it will coordinate the distance first, or calculate the distance first automatically. So now we're fully defined. We just need to close up our triangles so that our extrude cut will cut out nice and cleanly. We've got some closed loops in there, and now we'll be good to go for our extrude cut. You'll see that's starting to cut across. We'll just go through everything, and now we've got our final clamp piece. So you'll see it was really this top part here, because it comes in at this side and it comes down at the top, that was causing us the most issues, and also that most of our dimensions were referenced to this center slot.